today we're talking about a really important subject, which is, are your thoughts poisoning your mind? Now, when I was a kid, my dad worked in agricultural chemicals, and they used to talk about the poisons that were being released into the environment by the various chemical companies around the world. And they talk about them in parts per million or parts per billion. And the question is, I would ask my dad, I said, Dad, why do you care about that? Why do you care about that? And he said, well, it seems really silly, but it's like, how much water are you willing to pour into your gas tank in your car before you think it's going to ruin your engine and it will stop working? And I basically said to my dad, well, you wouldn't ever want to pour any water into your gas tank. It would destroy your engine. And that's the thing that we've got to understand, that negative thoughts, even at the microscopic level, the parts per million, the parts per billion, whatever it would be, are really poisonous for your mind. And I have struggled with this, and I think that a lot of people have found that they've struggled with it too. And what we've realized is that poisonous thoughts destroy our minds. Is your mind being destroyed by poisonous thoughts that are negative? One of the most difficult things is to have what's called mental discipline. And when we talk about that, we're not just simply saying, pull yourself up for your own bootstraps. You do it. There's no God's help. There's no community help. It's all on you. No, that's not exactly what we're saying, but it really does have a personal responsibility component. It really does have something that you've got to ask yourself and watch, actually, if you could imagine it, watch the shape and the content of the thoughts that are running through your mind. And if they're negative, your own thoughts could very well be poisoning you. Maybe at the microscopic level, or maybe it's on the macro level. Maybe that's all you do. You've just got a torrent of negative thoughts. And the question is, how do we resolve that? How do we resolve it? Well, we've talked in the past about how the Apostle Paul so really helpfully talks to the Philippians about how not to worry. Now, what you might not know is the Philippians didn't have a whole lot of resources. They were cash-strapped, and they were challenged financially. And yet, Paul encourages them again and again to get their minds right, to not focus on negative thoughts like worry, but focus in on God, to not try to figure it out, but say, God, I'm going to trust you, I'm going to look at things positively, and I'm going to keep my head in the right direction. To not bicker and fight, I don't know if you remember that famous story about Euodia and Syntyche. He says, Euodia and Syntyche, these two obviously influential women leaders in the church, he says to them, I plead with you in the Lord, agree with each other. Why? Because they had so much negative thoughts, so much negative energy going between the two of them. There are so many different areas that we can poison our minds by being negative. And I don't say this with any way of condemnation or judgment. You can know I personally struggle with this, and I found a lot of people struggle with this, okay? But if we look at it, Paul says, listen, get a hold of your thoughts. Here's what he says. He rounds everything out at the end. In Philippians chapter 4, he says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever's right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And then he tells you to put it into practice. I mean, that's kind of the follow-through. He says, but whatever you've learned or received or heard from me or even seen in me, put that into practice. And what will happen? And the God of peace will be with you. And what he's basically been saying the whole time is that, listen, there's all kinds of thoughts that can poison your mind. There's all kinds of things that can drag you down. Even if it's in the micro parts per million or billion, it's going to poison you, and you've got to be focused in on positive things. So what is it that's running through your mind right now? We talk about having what I like to call operational theology. It's the where the rubber meets the road. Not what you say out there about God, not what you claim you believe, but what's really going on right here and right here. This is the business of the believer. To be self-aware and to know what it is that's going through our heads and whether or not that's focused in on God and Christ and positive and pure and noble things, or whether it's something that's poisoning your very soul. Times like this really challenge us because there are many uncertainties. There are many things that could very easily slide into negativity. My encouragement for you today, my hope for you today, and the direction that we want to give to your soul today is that you do not have to be poisoned by negativity. In Christ, we have a whole new mindset. In Christ, we have a whole new vision. Because of the confidence that we have in the resurrection in Jesus and his return and him making all things new, we do not have to think negatively. It's time for us to get our minds right. It's time for us to trust God, kick out the poison, and invite in his purity and his truth and his positive direction and vision for our hearts and lives. So the question is, are you going to let your mind be poisoned with negative thoughts, or are you going to trust him? And I say, let's trust him together. Let's get through this season and look for the greater hope that God is going to offer us. Every day we're going to come to you and bring an encouraging video of hope and direction. We truly hope that this is something that's encouraging to you. If it is, we do encourage you, like it, subscribe, share it with your friends and family. Get the positive message out that there's hope and direction for us today. And until the next time we get together, keep the eyes of your heart focused on Jesus, and let's follow him together.